welcome to the Community Finance Ireland webinar. The theme of this event is financial as well as physical fitness is the key to success. My name is Phelim Sharvin and I am the head of Community Finance NI, and I will attempt to guide you through the proceedings today. I welcome you to this webinar on behalf of everyone at Community Finance Ireland. And I'd just like to say at this stage that the webinar is being recorded, that we'll have some questions and answers with our panelists, and there'll also be another question and answering section at the end. Okay. So first of all, just to provide some background and context on Community Finance Ireland. We're a charity and a social enterprise operating across the entire island of Ireland. We're a social finance provider that works tirelessly to ensure the positive social impact is achieved by all the communities that we support, and that includes in the sporting sector. Since opening our doors in the late 1990s, we've worked with capital providers and community-led organisations to fund many community projects, many sports projects throughout Ireland. We're the fastest growing dedicated social finance provider across Ireland and the UK. And today we're launching a £5 million flexible all-island sports loan fund. To help us do that, we've enlisted the help of some people that have achieved in the sporting arena and those that have affected change at grassroots level. The panel will discuss the importance of financial and physical fitness and detail how our new fund can support sporting activity across the island. And now to move over to the panel. The first panelist is Sinead Reel. Sinead is the chairperson of Armagh Ladies Gaelic County Board. She's a lifelong GA player and fan, and for Sinead, sport is very much a family affair, with both her father and her brother also sharing her love of competing for her local club. Sinead made history by building the first and only dedicated female changing facilities and playing pitch across the island of Ireland in her native home of County Armagh. Her dedication to sport in her local community has not only helped to develop new state-of-the-art playing facilities, but has also created employment opportunities and has helped to advance opportunities for the next generation of players to come. Our second panelist is Brendan Boyce. Brendan is an accomplished sportsman who has competed 3 times in the Olympics in the sport of race walking. Most recently, he finished 10th in the 50k walk in the Tokyo Olympics. A native of Donegal, Brendan has benefited from Community Finance Ireland's investment in the Finn Valley Athletics Club. Brendan now lives in Middleton and trains in Cork City. Brendan has been vocal on sporting issues that he feels are unjust, and has recently used his influence to speak about the International Olympic Committee giving itself power to remove sports from the Olympic programme. Our third panellist is Joanne O'Riordan. Joanne studied criminology in University College Cork and is one of only 7 people in the world living with a rare physical disability known as total amelia. Joanne is an activist for people with disabilities, a motivational speaker, and a sports columnist with the Irish Times. Joanne has spoken before the UN and was named Young Person of the Year at the People of the Year Awards in 2012. She also appears in the 2013 documentary, No Limbs, No Limits. And Joanne has recently travelled to Japan to cover the Tokyo Paralympic Games. And last but not least, we have Anne Graham, the Client Relationship Manager at Community Finance Ireland. Anne joined Community Finance Ireland in April this year as our Client Relationship Manager for Connacht and her native Donegal. She has over 25 years experience working across the financial services industry in business development, business lending, financial advice and credit control. Anne holds an MBA from the University of Ulster and a QFA diploma from the Institute of Bankers. When not ferrying her kids to football matches, Anne spends her time running and has recently taken up sea swimming on the beautiful shores of Lough Swilly. Very brave. This webinar is timely and I feel, it takes place on National Fitness Day, which focuses on more people, more active, more often. In many ways, this could be the mantra for many of our clients, and we'll hear more about that later on. But at this stage, what I'd like to do is pass over to Anne Graham to share some details of the loan fund.
Thanks, Phelim. Hard to recognise myself there. Good afternoon, everyone. As Phelim just said, my name is Anne Graham and I've just joined Community Finance Ireland there in April. And I suppose one of the main things that I would find most inspiring at the minute is working with the volunteers and sports groups that we see the length and breadth of Ireland. It's really inspiring stuff, and it would be a great surprise to know, and I suppose that a lot of these sports clubs, I just don't know where they'd be without the level of volunteering that goes on up and down the length and the breadth of the country. So I have great admiration for that and for those people. So I'm just going to cover off now the features of our sports loan. So as Phelim just said, we have launched a 5 million fund today, and it's available to all sports organisations throughout the island of Ireland. So the parameters of that loan run from 10,000 up to $500,000. Within that, we offer two types of products. There's the bridging and the term loan facility. And sometimes we would offer both of those facilities at the same time to certain sports groups. And we'll go through that later in more detail. And a few examples of the purposes of the reason that we would provide loans to certain sporting groups are, and this is something that's just come up in my own portfolio in recent days, is pitch redevelopment costs, resurfacing and reseeding, purchase of additional grounds. Some groups are looking to buy new facilities for training pitches and their expansion plans. Some groups are doing new running tracks, renovating changing rooms, building new clubhouses. And a lot of groups around the country have created new walkways and pathways within their grounds, which is, I suppose, widening their facilities to the wider community. So at Community Finance Ireland, one of the key features that I'd like to emphasise is that we know funding streams can be unpredictable. So our rates don't change, they stay the same. Another benefit we would offer is there's no arrangement fees, and we don't seek personal guarantees, which is really important for volunteers. We don't look for any early repayment penalties. So let's say if a sports group had a successful fundraiser and they have a lump sum that they wish to repay off that, that's not an issue. We don't charge any penalties. Most of our bridging loans, we don't look for security, and most of our term loans are unsecured as well. We like to be flexible with the groups that we're working with, and we will try our best to tailor and suit the needs of your sports club. So we want to work with you and make it work for you. Another benefit that is hugely important, I think maybe more so post-COVID, is we will provide a face-to-face facility. We will come and meet you at your grounds, your sports facility, and we want to see your project, get a feel for it, and get an understanding of the key people that work within that group. At Community Finance Ireland, we are big on relationships. So when you work with us, you'll get a dedicated relationship manager, one point of contact, and we're always there at the end of the phone or email or whatever form of contact you prefer. And a nice benefit, I suppose, at the end of that is we always invest our profits back into the social economy. So further down the line, another sports group will benefit from any profit that's made. So that's the key features, Phelim. So I'm going to hand back over to you.
Thanks very, very much for that very comprehensive coverage of what are the key features of the fund, and also probably some of the core themes of Community Finance Ireland as an organisation. You know, the flexibility, accessibility and fairness being the core values when we're operating with our client base. Look, guys, we'll move on, and to kick off, you know, I think I mentioned earlier, and I know you did as well, on people that affect change at a grassroots level. You know, clearly these people are very, very important, particularly in the sports sector. And the first question that we have today is for Sinead Reel, and it's a pre-recorded video that Sinead will answer. And it focuses on grassroots sport and the importance of opportunities in that. And it is, how important is grassroots support in offering opportunities for sport lovers in our communities? And we'll roll the video.
Grassroots support is very important in the GA and the LGFA families, because every wee girl and boy always starts in their local club. So the aim, you know, that you have either as a coach or as a parent is to take your child up through the ranks of the grassroots of your club. So and take them up through the age groups. It's also obviously, from my role as county chairperson, we depend on the support of all the clubs for ladies Gaelic football in Armagh. So we have 33 clubs and it's growing every year. We have another 3 or 4 new clubs wanting to enter competition next year for 2022, which is great. So it's increasing the numbers all the time. The sport is growing rapidly, not just in Armagh, but all over Ireland. We've seen that obviously with the crowds again at the All-Ireland final. ladies final 2 weeks ago. And it's your dream then, obviously, to, as a player, well, I know my dream was always to play for your club and then play for your county, which is what our facility is for. So we will be taking girls from all those grassroots areas, from Lurgan, Portadown, right through to Crossmaglen, and they will all eventually, you know, hopefully make the elite part of our sport. And then that means they get the chance to come over and use the facilities that we are building over in Killian. The other thing about grassroots is the financial and fundraising support. You'll always find that if you're involved in a club then and you have kids playing, you want to support that club financially, you do the lotto, you do fundraising. So that's the same within a county status as well. We then, you know, hope that any girl who puts on an Armagh jersey, that their families and their clubs will support anything we do as a county to raise funds. And those funds then obviously all go towards the development facility that we're building, but also the development of ladies football. So putting that back into coaching, putting that back into the grassroots, putting that back into the clubs to produce young girls through the ranks. And then obviously, as I've spoke previously about Gaelic for Mothers, like, you know, Gaelic for Mothers and Others is another initiative that the LGFA have introduced. It's been on the go quite a while, and I'm in my 3rd season, I think, now at ladies at the Gaelic for Mothers, and it involves taking women back of all ages who may have never played sports before, but they're coming back to the grassroots of their own club, and they're getting involved either for the fitness element or for the social aspect of it all, and it brings those people back to the grassroots. So grassroots of clubs are very important to all communities, and clubs are, you know, they're the hub of their community. It's a meeting place for people to go. So obviously grassroots are very important, especially in the GAA and the LGFA community.
I think we can see from the answer that Sinead gave there that there's passion and commitment for her sport, for her community, but there's also the know-how to progress the projects that she's involved in. And it's interesting to hear Sinead outline grassroots support at family, club, and up to county level, and how it has to be supported all the way. And if I can put this to you, Brendan, you know, as an elite athlete, what were the support mechanisms that helped your sporting ambition? And how vital is the volunteering community to that support?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I guess my started off in athletics, so that'll be my primary sport. But where I grew up in Milford and Donegal, it was very much a sporting town, and we had sports clubs, you know, for everything: GAA, soccer, basketball, volleyball, athletics, and very much based around community games as well. So we definitely came from a volunteer role, and even my own parents were heavily involved with the local community games and athletics clubs. They were like treasurers, you know, assistants, setting up grounds, and then my coaches and all, they were all volunteers all the way through. And I guess we trained, you know, I'm probably older than I look, so I've been around in sport for a very, very long time. So from the age of 6 or 7, I was doing athletics, and you know, we just trained in the local field. Like, there was no facilities at all. Like, the best we could do was like a few cones down and maybe a few pegs around the thing to make sure we were running the distances we thought we were running. Like, so very, very basic stuff. And obviously throughout my career then I was able to go away and progress. And I think when I actually left Donegal in around when I was 18, so what's that, nearly 14 years ago, there was no athletics tracks in Donegal at that time. So I was very, very much leaving school with no experience of having that kind of facilities, and ended up going to the UK to study. And it was just like going into a different world. The level of facilities, the level of professionalism within the university structure, you know, everything was done, you know, how you'd kind of expect it to be done. And then obviously in the years following that, you know, we were able to do stuff in Donegal, and Patsy was able to set up a fund, and he's obviously very much involved in the community. So he's coached Donegal GA He was obviously Irish Olympic team manager for 5 Olympic Games. He helps out with the local boxing club there in Ballybofey. So like Patsy obviously had the reach for all the different communities, so he was able to pull everyone together and build this beautiful facility in Finn Valley. And it's honestly like one of the best facilities in the whole country. And it's in a small little town in Donegal. So it all comes from the volunteer roles within the community and how they're able to pull together and bring something like that to fruition. And I've obviously traveled the world as well, and I've seen how these facilities can be there for everyone in the community. So I train very similar in a little town in Spain, probably like 40,000 population, and the athletics track is the center of the social world there. So everyone comes down. There's like people in their 60s and 70s just who come down to walk around the track just because it's a safe environment. And then you obviously have the athletes, and then there's a soccer pitch in the middle, and there's training facilities and a gym there. So like these facilities can become a lifeline for social interaction within small towns and villages. So that's what I see when I come back to Finn Valley now. I'm like, I was 20 years too late in my career.
Well, I think, Brendan, it's interesting to hear your perspectives from grassroots right up to elite level, from Finn Valley in Donegal to your experiences at university and your experiences when you're training in Spain and seeing the differences there. But I suppose that's all underpinned, as you've mentioned, people like Patsy at Finn Valley, the volunteerism and the commitment there. And you also mentioned your parents. It's interesting to hear that. So you brought some insights from elite sport. And earlier, Sinead had touched on female participation in sport. She talked about Gaelic for Mothers and also in the committees and in the support structures. And in terms of participation and diversity, and I suppose bringing this a stage further with regards to diversity, and this is for you, Joanne. On the back of the recent Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics, how important is diversity in sport for you?
It's incredibly important. I suppose when I was younger growing up, it was very evident to me that I wasn't like my siblings, and I couldn't go kick a football, with the rest of them. So I had to figure out other ways, to get involved, because I still wanted to be with them, still wanted to hang out with my friends and stuff like that. And I suppose from my perspective, I remember, everyone kind of telling me, well, it's kind of playing is kind of what we aim for, but I see it, across the board in sport. There's so many other admittedly unsexy areas that you have to kind of go through as well. Obviously journalism is my bread and butter at the moment, sports writing in particular. And I see every day, just like every single challenge, not only as a woman, but as a woman with a disability as well. I suppose if you take the woman context first, it's very rare for me to be in a situation surrounded by other journalists, and there's another woman there with me. But then I've noticed actually it's probably an age thing more than anything, but now there's a little crop of us coming along. They call us the Rebel Treble, and we're not even all from Cork, we're all scattered across the country. But once they see the three of us coming, they know trouble is coming. But no, I think it is really important, to see. And I think if you don't reach across, the borders, if you don't reach across, different societal lines, then you won't get to see the impact, and I think it is hugely important, I think, for people to be able to go out there to see heroes, that replicate them, that look like them, for them to be able to follow their path. I think that is incredibly important, but you're not going to do that unless you reach your hand across and say, listen, do you want to get involved in some shape or form? And I think lessening the emphasis on playing. Sure, playing is super important. I'm absolutely, not disagreeing with that, but to also advocate, for coaching, volunteerism, administrators, future writers, whatever it may be, for people to understand that just because you don't play sport doesn't mean you can't be involved. I think that is something that is incredibly huge, and something that needs to be kind of fixed. But on the flip side, you won't be able to get that unless you start hiring women, supporting women, adding more voices into sport, that aren't necessarily the white male dominated point of view. And I think that is incredibly important. I think it was a club in Roscommon that realized they had no underage team because just people were immigrating and people weren't having as many children. So what did? They asked some of the refugees, do you think you'd be interested in playing sport? And they were like, I've no idea if I can play this. And all of a sudden you have an incredible crop of a refugee team coming in, being integrated with the community, breaking down different barriers, kids being able to ask questions, like, where'd you come from? Like, what's all that about? And just being able to bridge those gaps, I think is as important as well from a sporting context.
I couldn't agree more, Joanne. I think what myself and Anne and others in Community Finance Ireland have probably experienced is diversity across the projects that we've supported. Sinead Reel and the guys at Armagh Ladies Gaelic are a great example of that. You know, they're pioneers, they're breaking ground there. We've seen that through other projects where people have been getting involved in sports. I know of one locally in County Down here where there's local immigrants are being involved and integrated into the local club. And it's fantastic to see those guys who are having a great impact on the locality. These are guys who are coming in on certain job roles and then they're working through the local GA club. And it's had a great impact for them and for the local community. So we at CFI know at first hand how sport can, I suppose, address rural decline as well. We've seen it in Killian and South Armagh with the Armagh Ladies Gaelic project. And we also know that it can help with social cohesion. So, and this one's for Brendan or Joanne. And this question is how, in your experience, has the investment in sports facilities helped address rural decline, assist social cohesion, bring about jobs, and connect people across the generations?
Again, my big experiences of growing up when I was younger was the lack of facilities, and you know, you really could only bring people into that group who were personally very, very motivated, because meeting at the side of a grass field in the middle of winter isn't exactly, you know, something that everyone wants to do. So to try and get people to come in and get involved in sport, you know, I think you need to set up like a safe environment and to have a really high level facility there with changing rooms, and you know, it brings the level of entry like really, really far down. So like anyone can get involved, anyone can turn up. And I think you can see that in Finn Valley now. Like I think the numbers of athletes that they have at the minute is like bigger than ever. Like when you go there now, there's maybe 6 or 7 different coaches, and they all have to take different groups to different parts of the track. And you know, it's nearly too many people at this stage. Like, so I suppose back when I was growing up, there was only ever one coach, one group, you know, and everyone just did the same thing. But now we have the facilities in place, we have extra volunteer coaches in place. You know, people can come down and they can find something that suits them. And you know, if they don't want to run, they can, you know, do long jump or high jump or throw a javelin or throw a shot put or discus. And you know, there's definitely something for everyone. And obviously that facility in Finn Valley also has swimming pools, gyms, courts, football pitches. So like you can bring anyone down there, and if you have the right people in place, they can find something for everyone. So I mean, like it's a game changer, really.
You know, you kind of touched on it there earlier, Joanne, about, you know, sport and sporting projects and sporting facilities in many ways can bring people together because there's a role for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? It's human condition, and it's human 101. We want to feel a part of something, and we want to feel connected with our fellow man, woman, whatever it may be. So if sports can provide that, then, you know, why not absolutely go for it? You know, I mean, the boys in the Irish Times, well, particularly our editor, be laughing at me as a Cork person talking about all the lovely facilities in Dublin, and I have to travel across different borders to kind of get there. But I think it is just super important that you're able to put them in different localities to make them more accessible, you know, for people. If you take people with disabilities as one bit of the population. So I think it's about 650,000 who identify with a disability in the Republic anyways. And I think it's something like 60% of them don't have access to a car. So automatically you're ruling them out of a good chunk of sporting activities, primarily because they can't get there. I suppose I'm blessed and fortunate in a way that my parents, you know, will happily pick me up, you know, PAs will take me there, whatever is necessary, and that's great. But there's still other members of the population who can't exactly go across and visit these centres. And I think it's about connecting that gap as well, not only from community to centre, but also home, you know, to the centre, wherever it may be, and just understanding that maybe other people need different facilities and different ways of accessing them. But yeah, like I think, as you said, it brings back then these people are officially part of the community. They have a reason to get up in the morning. They have a connection, you know, to people that they might necessarily have had with, and they may be able to make new friends. And as I said, build off the barriers that they have to overcome anyways. But, you know, I think for events like this, this. And I think this is why Community Finance Ireland and other companies are so important as well. Not only are, you know, people on this call clapping people for jumping the hurdle, you're also helping in removing the hurdle. And I think that's something that has to be more focused on as well in the future.
I think you make many good points there, and from Community Finance Ireland's perspective, I think it's very, very important for us that we continue to invest in people and support people who are driving these projects forward and who manage these projects. It's becoming more and more clear to us, and even listening to this conversation, that you need a strong performance and a strong team, both on and off the pitch or track for that matter. You know, you need people in the background prepared to do the work. You touched on that earlier, Brendan, and so did Anne indeed. And I think that's very, very important. I'm going to pose the last final question to our other contributor, Sinead Reel, and Anne, you can come in perhaps after the video. But again, it points to financial fitness, not just physical fitness, is an important part of sustainability and delivering excellent facilities. And it points to how do local sports clubs achieve this? So we'll take a look at Sinead's answer and we'll roll the video.
We got ourselves involved with Community Finance Ireland about 2 years ago. And we are the first county in the whole of Ireland to develop a training facility for ladies Gaelic football for the county teams within Armagh. So obviously fundraising and grants were very hard to come by, as it's ladies Gaelic football and it's not, you know, supported as well as our counterparts in the GAA. So we approached Community Finance Ireland for help with a sporting loan. And we have found that this has helped us immensely with our continued work on our new facility. So our facility is based in the rural parish of Killian, which is on the South Armagh, North Louth border. And it's based in a village basically that has not an awful lot bar now the football field itself, and the money that we have invested from Community Finance has helped us to redevelop an older pitch that was there, and we have spent the majority of our money reinvested back into bringing the pitch up to the standards that we need for our girls to train on every night. We are still working on that facility and moving towards more development on it, so including floodlights, and in the future then a training facility, changing facilities, and a pavilion for the community hopefully to use as well. I personally live not too far from the new development, so I can actually see the excitement and the buzz that it has brought around the area of Killian, and the people have come out, you know, around that area there, you know, to help, and the volunteers have been unbelievable. Everybody wants to get involved, and speaking to the local youth group, Kish Killian, which has been set up from our development, their numbers are increasing week on week, and this involves both, you know, boys and girls for them as a parish. And we just find that obviously, you know, the development that we have done has obviously helped the parish and the rural area of Killian. Obviously it's bringing more people into the area, and we're taking girls from all over the county of Armagh to Killian. So there's girls that would never have ever seen this village ever before, and they're now there, and this is a home and a base for Armagh Ladies Gaelic football. I do think that the development itself has definitely helped the community, and we obviously hope to work with the community and the people of Killian over the next many years, and, you know, develop that relationship with them. There's also then obviously the generational connectivity between, you know, GAA and LGFA families. I myself have played football right up until a couple of years ago competitively, and I now play Gaelic for mothers, which is brilliant, in our local club in Silver Bridge here beside me. And I suppose the role that I have now was handed down to me from my father, who was there before, and it was his brainchild to develop and find somewhere to make a base for ladies football in Armagh. And I'm just probably following through on his dream, and I hope that I'm doing him proud on it. So and he's there all the time as well, you know, working in some capacity and volunteering as well over there. I just hope that, you know, that in the future, when we all maybe step aside, that, you know, the people who take over these roles, you know, appreciate the work that has been done beforehand. And obviously without the help of Community Finance Ireland helping us, you know, with the funding, we definitely wouldn't be able to carry out the work that we have been doing.
Very interesting commentary from Sinead, and I think there we understand someone who knows what it takes to get a project up off the ground and to bring it forward. And to go back to what you were mentioning earlier on, Joanne, that human element, that human connection, it's clearly there. Look, just before we take some questions from the audience, I'm going to bring you in here, Anne. Does that narrative described by Sinead, does that tally with some of your experiences in the clients that you've been dealing with?
Well, yeah, absolutely, Phelim. Like, I suppose what Joanne mentioned there about the human connection, and Sinead about bringing your community on board. You know, talking about financial fitness and being financially, I suppose, ready. The first thing I would say to any club is that there isn't actually much difference in terms of getting ready physically and physically fit and being financially fit. It's a long-term game. And, you know, that vision and that dream, it's something that someone within that club will have. And if you think back to the likes of Patsy McGonigal up at Finn Valley, like, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And it's really important to bring that vision and that dream and to then sort of break it down into achievable goals. I suppose what I would say to any community group that I'd be dealing with is, firstly, and Sinead touched on this and so did Joanne, is bring your local community with you. First of all, you need to do your research with your local community. Who is in your community? What is their needs? You need to research that, go out and ask them what is their needs, because at the end of the day, they're going to be the people that's going to be using your facility. And if it doesn't meet those needs, then you know you're missing a trick. And these are the key people that you need to bring with you when it comes to paying for it, fundraising for it. Sinead really touched on that. And, you know, they're the people that will be paying the membership and paying the patronage to bring this project to fruition. One of the other things I would say in terms of getting financially fit is, you know, break your idea down into phases. Don't overwhelm your committee. Don't overwhelm your fundraising committee. Break it down, no more than fitness goals, into, you know, small bite-sized pieces and phases, and prioritize what is the biggest need within the community first, and get that piece of the project up and running and completed, and then work on phase 2 and phase 3. And with that, and doing it in a kind of a nice staged, measured way, you probably will bring your people with you. I suppose the third thing that I would say, and Brendan touched on this as well, it's getting the right team behind you and making sure that you have the right skill set. Like any professional athlete will, you know, agree with me on that. You need to have that skill set, that knowledge behind you. Sinead touched on it, Joanne touched on it as well, about, you know, bringing in diversity. That is really key at the minute. There's lots of people that, you know, within communities that might not be a sports player, but they have fantastic skill sets that they want to bring into a club. They want to be part of something, they want to be connected. And it's really important to invite those people and make sure that they have a seat at the decision-making table. And I think if you keep that to the fore as a sports group, you won't go too far wrong. And in that piece as well, what I would say is, make sure you have people like ourselves at Community Finance Ireland at the table. We'll help you how to structure a deal. If you're coming against hiccups on the road, we'll probably have come across that before, or one of our team will, you know, tap into that knowledge and try and get a solution for you, because that's what we're about. We're trying to provide solutions. And the last thing I would say, maybe in terms of, you know, financial fitness, and Brendan and any athlete, you know, that's good at their game will understand this. Consistency then is key. Consistency in terms of get the basics right and build upon that. And any group or sports group that keeps those sort of rules to the fore won't go too far wrong. Just where Brendan was chatting there and he was discussing about, you know, Finn Valley. Like today in Finn Valley, there's 300 children attending cross-country championships at Finn Valley. They're school children. And if that facility was not there, if Patsy McGonigal and the likes of him and his team and the wider community there and all the stakeholders didn't support him in that dream. There's 300 children that wouldn't be at that facility today. And I have no doubt there's a few Brendan Boyces within that population of the 300 kids that's up there today running cross country. There's a couple of other, I suppose, examples that I just want to touch on in terms of community. And I think one of them, Phelim, is yours. It's to Connacht. I think it's over in County Down. Just in terms of, I think we provided them with a bridging loan and a term loan. But when you and I were preparing for this session, I think you conveyed to me about how a rural community and what their committee was like. And you might want to chime in there in terms of, like, I think you said they were like exemplars in how a committee should be run and how they rallied support within that community to deliver.
Well, I think it's similar to what many of the points that you covered there. You know, in this particular example, the committee was a relatively new committee. There was new people who had moved into the area because their commuting habits had changed, okay? And they were able to be become involved in the local GAA club. And I think quite sensibly, the local GAA club spotted an opportunity for new people in the community who could bring new skills and new experience to their committee. And, you know, the outworkings of that is that the club has grown steadily. They've developed their facilities quite successfully, and they availed of the support of Community Finance Ireland through the form of a flexible bridging loan and a flexible term loan to build a community hub on their local site. So, you know, that's bringing fresh people in, and it goes back to the earlier point about the backroom team, the team off the pitch, the team off the track, being as strong as the team on the track. And I suppose Brendan and other guys will know at the elite level, you know, your coaching team and your support team is vitally important. It's the same in a small GA club. It's the same in a small football club, a small athletics club. It's about the people who are volunteering and bringing their skills to bear across the club. And that includes fundraising, includes project management, includes coaching, development and planning. And all of those things, when they come together, you can have a massive impact, as described by Sinead and some others. So listen, and thanks very much for that. Very comprehensive again, and it's brilliant to get those pointers. Look, guys, I'm going to take a question from the audience here, and I'm going to put it out for Joanne or Brendan to answer, okay? And it is, what kind of different or diverse sports do the panel want to see grow across the island of Ireland? So whoever wants to go first there.
Will I go first? I don't mind.
Go ahead, Joanne.
Very attention. Yeah, no, I suppose like for my end, just from a purely selfish point of view, I'd love to see way more like wheelchair sports, you know, kind of being developed. You know, I'd love, you know, if on some of the tennis courts and the tracks, you know, and different things like that, we get to see more wheelchair users being involved and being kind of thrust into sport. I think that's really all about taking risk. I think it's all about just asking someone whether they'd want to do it or not, see if they'd enjoy it. Chances are they probably will, because who doesn't love hurtling down a track at 60 kilometers an hour in under 2 minutes? I think, you know, that's quite incredible stuff. So yeah, I'd love to see that being more developed, obviously coming off an incredibly successful Paralympic campaign. I'd like to see that, you know, delved into more and people kind of understanding, because I think some of the life lessons that you'd learn through sport are very applicable to life itself. And unlike society, which is reactive, sport is proactive in that anything for a gold medal, anything for a win, anything to get score 3 goals and beat your near rival, whatever is necessary, sport will do it for you. Even if you need an extra leg that costs God knows how much, the sport will try its best to do it, just as long as you beat your near rival. So I think all those life lessons and stuff that you can apply to the real world are also important. But on the flip side, just to see people getting out, getting fit. I know for myself, doing Pilates and yoga, I haven't been doing that much this week, not going live, been dipping into the chocolates a bit too much, but even getting to do the little bit that I do, just the mental relief that I get from it more than anything. If I've said it this numerous times, I'm the laziest person on the planet. If I could bottle that feeling and sell it and not have to work out ever again, I would do it in a heartbeat, but nothing else can kind of top it. So yeah, that would be it from my perspective, just to develop it more, get more involved in GAs, football for all, or wheelchair hurling. I think just what you learn from those are just incredible as well. Wheelchair tennis is a fun one. And yeah, just that would be my interest.
I've seen the wheelchair hurling and wheelchair tennis, fantastic initiatives. And listen, Joanne, we'll not hold it against you for dipping into the chocolate. I think we're all guilty of that once in a while. Anybody else anything to add just on that question, just before we move towards wrapping up?
Yeah, just like it's important to have diversity for, I guess, the younger audience. If anyone's like, obviously athletics is where I ended up, but I've won All Ireland medals for running, cross country, volleyball, and even table tennis. And it came to the point, like, I won a All Ireland junior table tennis, and after the competition was over, that was it. Like, there was no extra coaches, like, available there to say, okay, now you're an Irish champion, here's this next step up. It was like, that was it, over. And then obviously just went back to athletics then. So we do need diversity at a young age, so athletes can figure out what sports they enjoy the most. And then obviously then at a much higher level, we need a bit more structure in terms of where that goes internationally and into the senior level. So yeah, there's definitely opportunities to get people involved at a younger age, and then obviously set up systems further down the line where athletes can fulfill their potential at a high level.
I think giving people the opportunity to fulfill their potential, they bring a lot of people with them in that process, and everybody gets to see the benefits of that. And just going back to your earlier point there, Joanne, we've had a contribution here that Community Finance Ireland supported the community in Vickerstown and County Laois with upgrades to their hall, which it's immense value to a resident club. It's the home of the Laois Lions Wheelchair Rugby Club. So it's good to see that kind of impact happening on the ground in the projects that we support. We want to see a positive social impact. We are very, very keen to see diversity on the ground and seeing people being able to deliver on their plans. And I suppose that brings me to really, guys, to the end of the event. And at this stage, I would just want to reinforce some of the earlier points that were made by Anne in particular, is that we at Community Finance Ireland are very keen to support the sporting sector out there. We're going to make ourselves accessible. We provide a flexible support, and we believe it's a fair decisioning process within that. And this All Ireland Loan Fund is designed to support a wide range of sports across the island, both rural and urban communities. And we're more than happy for people to get in touch with us with any queries that they have about that. They can contact a member of the team if they have those contact details, or they can visit the website www.communityfinanceIreland.com, and there's a wealth of information there on the website that they can look at and then come back for a conversation at some stage about their plans. So look, at this stage, I would like to thank all the panelists for their insights. It was really, really good to hear, guys, from different perspectives, your involvement in the sporting sector. Thanks very much, Brendan. Thanks, Joanne. I'll say thanks to Sinead Reel for her contributions, which were really insightful, somebody working at the coalface, and of course Anne, our own client relationship manager here at Community Finance Ireland. And thank you very much for your insights here into how you're working with clients on the ground. And on that basis, guys, I'll bring the webinar to an end, and also thank everybody else in the audience who attended. Thank you very much.